Tonight, millions of Canadians are under winter weather warnings as powerful storms whip through multiple provinces.
You're driving and all of a sudden it's whiteout conditions.
Strong wind, freezing rain, and heavy snow. The effect on communities and travelers. A high-stakes meeting on the Gaza peace plan.
If they don't disarm, they'll be held to pay for them.
From rebuilding to the withdrawal of troops, where the talks stand. And a costly no-show for the Vancouver Whitecaps.
We did have tickets, and my kids were really disappointed.
Why the team is dishing out nearly $500,000.
From CBC News, this is The National with Chief Correspondent Adrian Arsenault.
Thanks for joining us. Well, tonight, a blast of winter weather is hitting eastern Canada hard, causing chaos during the busy holiday travel season. We're talking about fierce wind, blowing snow, and freezing rain that are creating hazardous conditions on the roads. With that comes major power outages and delays at this country's busiest airports. The advice? Stay home if you can. Here are the weather warnings tonight across parts of Ontario, Quebec, and on to the East Coast, where the storm is expected to hit next. As Dan Takema shows us, getting around in this weather is difficult and dangerous.
As wind whips snow and ice pellets through the air, a plea from Ontario Provincial Police at a multi-vehicle crash southwest of Toronto.
Please, if you do not need to be traveling in this area, do not be on the roads.
A winter storm is working its way across Ontario and Quebec before bearing down on the east coast, bringing an ugly mix of rain, snow, and ice with it. Heavy winds are making things difficult, too.
Icy conditions, patches, whiteout conditions, and our officers are dispatched left, right, and center. There's no visibility. You're driving and all of a sudden it's whiteout conditions.
Northern Ontario was also hit hard.
I grew up here my whole life, and I've maybe seen a storm once or twice like this.
Travel was treacherous, even for emergency vehicles. This fire truck went off the road near Mirabel, Quebec, while responding to a call.
When these big systems come, I guess misery loves company, and so we all have to deal with something, unfortunately.
For holiday travelers, that meant being stuck in limbo. Delays and cancellations at airports left many grounded, some overnight.
I've already lost one day's pay because I'm supposed to be back to work, and I'm stranded here.
Yeah, we were very concerned about the weather.
One man says he spent 6 hours on the tarmac in Montreal.
I just have to sit and wait. And I'm trying to get home to see my mom. She's in the hospital. She's had a stroke.
In Ottawa, residents spent the day scraping and stocking up.
Just trying to get all of the ice off this sucker.
Ran out of salt, not enough for the driveway.
Crazy.
Winter's just started, but some say they've already had enough.
Who doesn't want to be in the middle of the freezer, living in the freezer, right?
While others, like these skaters in Kitchener-Waterloo, tried to make the best of it. Environment Canada says there's plenty more to come.
The weather is not over because behind it, there's also a cold air mass waiting just to freeze everything over.
Environment Canada says with so many places dealing with a variety of bad weather, it's impossible to say who's getting the worst of it right now. That's something we might not know until this is all over. Adrian.
And it's not over yet. So Dan, as I understand it, that storm is now heading to parts of the Maritimes next.
Yeah, that's right. There are freezing rain warnings for Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, Prince Edward Island, although that may turn to just regular rainfall overnight. It really depends on where you are in the Maritimes. For example, northern New Brunswick, near the Quebec border, they're being told to expect up to 20 centimeters of snow.
All right, thank you. Thanks. That's Dan Takema in Ottawa tonight. Off BC's north coast, extreme flooding is being reported in Haida Gwaii. Heavy rain has already washed out, as you can see, a section of this highway. Haida Gwaii saw more than 100 millimeters in just 48 hours. Other parts of the coast could see as much as 200 millimeters. Now, in the United States, Donald Trump has turned his attention to the Middle East. The U.S. president hosting Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Their talks aimed at taking the next step in the Gaza peace plan. Karen Pauls now with where negotiations stand and what could come next.
I'm not concerned about anything that Israel's doing.
U.S. President Donald Trump
Sometimes we have different ideas, but we work it out.
and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu together to discuss phase 2 of the Gaza peace plan that the U.S. helped broker. On Hamas,
If they don't disarm as they agreed to do, they agreed to it, and then they'll be held to pay for them.
and on Israel withdrawing its forces.
Well, that's a separate subject.
Phase 2 also includes an international stabilization force run by peacekeepers and a temporary Palestinian governance authority to manage daily affairs. One thing made clear by the U.S. and Israel, Hamas cannot maintain control over Gaza. But there are signs that could be a problem amidst reports Hamas is seeking a new leader. The reconstruction of Gaza is an increasingly urgent humanitarian priority. Another winter storm this weekend, resulting in deaths and despair. All night long, we were holding sticks up and water was coming down on us, says Rafika El Amiri, who is trying to find shelter, afraid the war will return. Trump and Netanyahu's words are worthless, says Khalil al-Haddad, adding he has no hope.
Yeah, please.
Trump still maintains most Gazans would leave if they could.
I said if they were given the opportunity to live in a better climate, they would move. Look, let's not talk about it because we don't want the controversy.
Trump and Netanyahu went to great lengths to show they're on the same page, but experts say deep divisions remain.
Netanyahu is very adept, and he could argue that no, Hamas is not disarmed. We don't want to give them a place to grow.
And at the end of the day, there's only going to be one standing, and we know where what Trump believes about all of this. So he's just not going to put up with any obfuscation or dilly-dallying by Netanyahu.
Adrian, some say the Americans worry the Israelis are slow-walking this peace process and that this could yet all unravel, tarnishing one of Trump's big accomplishments this year.
And Karen, it's believed that the two leaders expanded that conversation to start talking about Iran.
They did. There are reports Iran is rebuilding its weapons programs at new sites. This after the U.S. bombed its nuclear facilities last June. Trump said if they are, he'll have no choice but to eradicate it. Adrian?
All right, that is Karen Pauls reporting in Washington. Thanks, Karen. The prospect of peace between Ukraine and Russia is facing a new threat tonight. As Anis Haidari shows us, Vladimir Putin is accusing Ukraine of attempting to attack his presidential residence, and he's vowing to retaliate.
In Kiev's Independence Square, skepticism over whether Donald Trump's latest meeting with Volodymyr Zelensky will have an impact. Negotiations are necessary, says Natalia Fomina, but she doesn't think one meeting will change the course of the war. And Tatiana Lukina says it's wrong to give up Ukrainian territory. The latest hurdle, the Kremlin accusing Ukraine of a drone attack on Vladimir Putin's presidential residence. Zelensky calling that a lie in a call with local reporters. Asked about the alleged attack, Trump seemed surprised.
I just heard about it, actually, but I don't know about it. That would be too bad. That would not be good.
This comes after Trump said a peace deal was 95% done. Zelensky says the U.S. is offering Ukraine a 15-year security guarantee, though he'd prefer 50 years.
We need these guarantees from the United States because it will set the bar for everybody else. And without U.S. being in these guarantees, I don't think none of the Europeans will be ready to be the first one to go to the trenches, basically.
What's still at issue? Territorial control of Zaporizhia in the south of Ukraine and the Donbas region in the eastern part of the country, where Putin is directing troops.
The main reason that Putin is trying to ask for this right now at this stage is because the part of Donbas that Ukraine holds is heavily fortified.
That territory a long-standing goal for Putin.
This is a core Russian war objective. It has been restated multiple times. If they don't get it through diplomacy, they will take it through war.
Trump also says he spoke with Putin Monday and had what he called a very good talk As for Zelensky, he says he will meet with European leaders in the coming days. Anis Haidari, CBC News, Calgary.
British boxer Anthony Joshua is recovering tonight after being hospitalized following a fatal crash in Nigeria. Authorities say it took place on a busy highway near Lagos. The vehicle he was in reportedly collided with a parked truck. Joshua was pulled from the wreckage, and his team says he suffered minor injuries, but 2 of his close friends were killed. The former heavyweight champion was said to be visiting relatives days after a high-profile fight with YouTuber Jake Paul. And a second pilot involved in a mid-air helicopter collision has died. It happened Sunday morning in New Jersey. The pilots were the only people on board each aircraft. Investigators are still at the scene working to determine the cause of the crash. Well, the city of Calgary is adding new safety features at busy intersections, all aimed at better protecting pedestrians after a sustained spike in collisions. Josh McLean now on what's changing and the potential use of some new tech.
On Calgary's busy roadways, a growing trend. The number of fatal crashes climbing year after year.
It's a simple answer. Speed is the main factor in fatals for sure.
The problem readily identified. Solving it, more complicated.
We have our own patrols out there. We have our traffic units out there on the road. But I keep saying to people, they have to take ownership themselves. So our car drivers have to take ownership on the vehicles that they're driving.
Something easier said than done. City staff are looking for ways to change the behavior of road users, like redesigning busy crossings.
Tell us a little bit about what's different here.
There are rectangular rapid flashing beacons here, which are beacons that pedestrians can activate to indicate to motorists they would like to cross the roadway. There are also curb extensions here where the curbs have been moved out a little bit from their typical location. That shortens the distance that pedestrians have to travel to cross the roadway, and it also moves them a little further out into the crossing, so they're more visible to motorists as motorists are approaching.
Council recently approved an extra $7.5 million for upgrades like these around the city. Also under consideration, using artificial intelligence to predict traffic patterns.
We're hoping what it can do is, move us more in a proactive approach so that we can implement measures perhaps a little bit ahead of time when there's an issue or a problem or a challenge.
Meanwhile, traffic safety advocates want to see more enforcement.
Laying down the law, saying if you're going to drive in Calgary, there's certain ways we expect you to drive, and if you don't drive that way, you're going to get penalized. And the revenue from that can be put into hiring more officers to do more traffic. But there is nowhere near enough enforcement in this province, nowhere near.
The city created the traffic safety team in March, 10 peace officers who have handed out thousands of tickets so far, most of them for speeding. Josh McLean, CBC News, Calgary.
China is using military drills to surround and isolate Taiwan, sending a blunt message to the island it claims as its own territory. Caroline Bargut with the show of power and the politics behind it.
By land, air, and sea, China is showing off its military might, releasing footage of a major exercise around Taiwan, its first in the region since April. Taiwanese defense officials say they counted 89 aircraft and drones, along with dozens of Navy ships, warships, and Coast Guard vessels. Beijing has long claimed Taiwan as part of its territory and says these latest drills are a warning against what it describes as separatist forces and external interference. A Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said the Taiwan issue is the core of China's core interests, and China's resolve to safeguard national sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity is unwavering. Taiwan says its military is on high alert. The democratically governed island rejects Beijing's sovereignty claims. We call on the Chinese authorities to act rationally and with self-restraint, to immediately cease irresponsible, provocative behavior, said a spokesperson for Taiwan's presidential office. Earlier this month, the U.S. announced an $11 billion arms sale to the island, angering Beijing.
China's ongoing.
Experts say these latest drills could also be a signal to the Trump administration.
The message to the U.S. is very significant and also simple, is that China now has the capability to impose total control in the areas around Taiwan whenever it wants to.
Relations between the Trump administration and China have been rocky. For months, the two sides were embroiled in a trade war. In October, they agreed to a truce. Trump is now expected to visit China in April.
The Chinese side will continue to try to emphasize to the U.S. that, there are ways for U.S. and China to coexist. But one of the red lines that Washington should not cross is to increase support and also engagement with Taiwan.
For now, China says the drills will continue, with some airspace around Taiwan set to be shut down. Caroline Bargood, CBC News, London.
There's growing evidence a malaria vaccination campaign in Africa has been incredibly effective. But in spite of that success, as Jennifer Yoon shows us, future efforts to prevent the disease are already at risk.
This young mom is feeling hope. She lost a baby to malaria. Now she's immunizing her surviving child with a malaria vaccine that's showing a great deal of promise in a real-life setting clinical trial. We aren't going through that with this child, she says. A recent study followed 45,000 children under the age of 5 in Malawi, Ghana, and Kenya. Kids who received 3 doses of the vaccine RTSS were less likely to suffer from severe malaria or be hospitalized with the disease.
This is further data that really verifies the effectiveness of the vaccine, the safety of the vaccine, as it's being implemented in real-life settings.
Malaria vaccines are now being rolled out across Africa, including in Nigeria, where a quarter of the world's malaria cases are estimated to be.
Prevention is always better than cure.
Those working on the front lines are also feeling relief.
Overall, the severe malaria cases that we used to see before is not as many as what we see right now.
But there are barriers to wider rollout, like cost for the 4-dose vaccine.
That's cost-intensive per dose, that's cost-intensive per resource, meaning that you have to have individuals out there vaccinating, capturing individuals, making sure that they're getting doses.
Organizations like Gavi and manufacturers have been able to drive prices down for RTSS. But with cuts to global health funding, aid organizations say they're facing hard choices.
There are holes in each one of the malaria interventions. It means that we are not able to support countries to the same extent, targeting all of those areas of need in the countries because of the resource limits that we have right now.
Access is on the minds of scientists working on the next generation of the vaccines too.
When everything that has to do with global health research, there is a need to make those medicines available broadly to those who need it the most.
Scientists like Julianne are working on a better vaccine, one that would last longer and work for all age groups. But he says those efforts must be accompanied with a plan to make sure they'll be accessible to all. Jennifer Yoon, CBC News, Toronto.
Tonight, the world is hearing from Ahmed Al-Ahmed, the man dubbed a hero for disarming a shooter at Bondi Beach.
I know I save lots of people's life. I know I save lots, but I feel sorry still for the lost.
In an exclusive interview with CBS News, he said his quick action was motivated by the people around him shouting for help. He said he never considered turning the gun on the shooter because he didn't want to take a life. The shop owner is left with 2 bullets lodged in his shoulder and nerve damage to his hand. Well, a potential conclusion to a class action lawsuit over the no-show of soccer superstar Lionel Messi at a Vancouver Whitecaps game.
If you've paid so much money to go see him and he doesn't show up, it's a bit of an awkward situation.
Are fans satisfied with the proposed settlement? Plus, this year has seen major advancements in artificial intelligence.
It could be open season on where this technology goes.
What is next for AI and the grave warnings about what is ahead? We're back in 2. The Vancouver Whitecaps are settling a lawsuit launched by their own fans. The class action alleges the team's marketing was misleading after soccer's biggest star didn't turn up to a match. Yasmin Renea now on what the no-show will cost the Whitecaps.
That question still in the minds of many Vancouver Whitecaps fans after more than a year and a half. Where was Lionel Messi? Just a day before that match, Inter Miami confirmed the Argentine star would not make the trip to Vancouver. But many fans said Whitecaps advertisements made them believe Messi would be on the pitch, many paying a premium to be there.
We did have tickets, and my kids were really disappointed.
It's like, damn, if you've paid so much money to go see him and he doesn't show up.
Fans demanded their money back, and a proposed class action lawsuit was filed against the Whitecaps and Major League Soccer. Now, a proposed settlement has been reached. It includes updated ticketing policies to state that team rosters are subject to change at any time, and a $475,000 charitable donation to 3 sports organizations.
I'm glad they're giving money to charity for it. I don't think we were under any illusions that Messi was for sure going to show.
The Whitecaps and MLS continue to deny any wrongdoing and say the lawsuit doesn't have merit. The proposed settlement doesn't include any compensation for ticket buyers.
I don't have a lot of sympathy for fans.
Buying a sports ticket carries inherent risk, says this sports economist.
Sometimes we're not going to get the stars that we expect. It's disappointing it's happening more frequently, but I don't really think that this is lawsuit worthy.
But not all fans agree.
There's money everywhere in football, and me as a football fan, I would love to see some compensation for that.
The Supreme Court of British Columbia still has to approve the proposed settlement, with a hearing scheduled in February. Yasmin Raneya, CBC News, Vancouver.
Veteran Canadian broadcaster Brian Stewart has been a witness to disasters around the world for decades.
CBC News in Santiago, Chile.
Belfast, Nicaragua,
Brussels.
The stories he's told and the impact those horrific events have had.
Something called moral injury, a wound to the soul.
We revisit our conversation next. 2025 has been a tumultuous year for artificial intelligence. Some companies took great leaps forward, even as warnings grew louder about potential dangers. Chris Reyes now on how far we've come and the hopes for what is ahead.
2025's first big AI headline came as a surprise.
I think the biggest shock in AI in 2025 would have been DeepSeek.
China's release of its own AI app would define the rest of the year, with fiery competition and rapid advancement in the field. Sinead Bovell watches the space closely as a futurist and strategist.
As soon as DeepSeek came on the scene and wiped out $1 trillion off the U.S. stock market, it really woke up the West.
And from there came bigger and bigger moments, billions of dollars in new investments, flashier features, massive user numbers. But with that, graver warnings.
Artificial intelligence without human oversight would leave the world blind.
We're thinking about the misuse. We're thinking about losing control of the model.
My main mission now is to warn people how dangerous AI could be.
Some of the fears, massive job losses, security risks, and harms to young people. Those concerns have prompted a global call, urging governments to do this.
Establish clear international boundaries to prevent universally unacceptable risks for AI.
Nobel Peace Prize winner and journalist Maria Reza, who signed the document, has been a leading voice in holding tech companies accountable for their impact on society.
That rule of law needs to extend to the latest technology that has the ability to take our biotech and combine it with our infotech.
This summit in New York is just one example of how much AI has dominated conversations across all industries. This is a huge gathering of business leaders, and we asked attendees a very simple question. What are your hopes and fears for AI in 2026?
Finding the disease, early detections and all that. I'm excited about the conversations that we're having.
There are certain things that that AI replaces humans with, so I have that fear.
Bovell has her own fear.
It's not that we make the wrong move, it's that we all become so overwhelmed about the moment we're in, we do nothing at all.
Instead, she's hoping more players will engage and consider this.
The next big advances in the technology might not come from the players we're used to it coming from, might not come from the places we're used to it coming from, so it could be open season on where this technology goes.
Only intensifying an already heated race. Chris Reyes, CBC News, New York.
For decades, veteran Canadian broadcaster Brian Stewart covered some of the most difficult stories across the globe. Now, in a memoir, he's detailing the personal toll of his time in the field. I sat down with Stewart last summer to talk about the moments that have stayed with him and so much more.
Eventually, the truth does come out, and it tends to be far worse than people expected.
When Brian Stewart offers insight into efforts to shut out or silence journalists in the world today, you do well to listen.
I'm Brian Stewart, on assignment in Brazil.
The celebrations here in Kuwait City have been building through the day.
He's a groundbreaking foreign correspondent, a scholar of world affairs, and where we work, he's a legend. Come on in, you.
Hi.
A little bit of this is your life in here. How are you? Thank you. A journalist whose work has had huge impact.
I'd like to introduce a video made by CBC television.
It was his team's images on the famine in Ethiopia, shown to an audience of more than 1 billion, that helped to make Live Aid in the 1980s the biggest fundraising concert in history. This is a little older than your era here.
Oh my gosh.
I guess this is closer to sort of the late 90s, eh, for you?
Yeah, I'm thinking of all the fabulous camera people we had.
He's finally written about all he witnessed, how the ghosts of the toughest days still haunt.
There, the uncontrolled fear began again.
And what he sees coming. Come have a seat.
Okay.
We're surrounded by some newer tech, so this is an excellent time to talk about it. When you walk through the doors here, I wonder if you were to sort of pull out your dusty reporting boots again and be in a position to advocate to go somewhere to report. Right now, where would you be advocating to be?
Honestly, I'd have to advocate where I would least like to be, and that is in Gaza. I think that's a responsibility of media, of world media. The world's called upon to be concerned, engaged. It certainly has a right to ask for reporting from there. I would not like to be in Gaza. I would be terrified to even think of going, but that's the one I would have to volunteer.
You know, on Gaza, that's the answer for all of us in here.
Yeah.
We know how many Palestinian journalists have been lost in this war. And people like the freelancer who works for CBC are risking absolutely everything. And they're doing a phenomenal job. But without the eyes and ears of journalists from the rest of the world, what do you think is lost?
Well, what you want is people who've seen other conflicts, been in conflicts before, so they're geared up to know some of the worst that they're going to see, be prepared for it, and then be overwhelmed at times when they see something they could never have prepared for, which you and I have both been in that situation. And then it's up to you to report honestly and without bias to the people. And your reputation's on the line. You know that. You know you can be destroyed if your reporting's off.
A chief objective of El Salvador's tired soldiers is to prevent...
Forces have very real fears today that they could be dragged ever deeper into the Lebanese...
An extra 9,000 troops are standing by to block possible Protestant loyalist violence.
When you were a foreign correspondent, it was an entirely different era.
Brian Stewart, CBC News, in Santiago, Chile.
Belfast, Nicaragua,
Brussels, Beirut,
El Salvador,
London.
I think you saw how journalism could make a difference, in particular television journalism. Has something happened to how people see imagery, because there is so much of it, because the phones make everyone capable of recording and witnessing?
It has, and it's something I actually worried about back in 1984.
Unless the richer nations act very quickly, these people will remain locked outside the walls of help this winter to die of starvation, perhaps by the hundreds of thousands. Brian Stewart, CBC News, in Mekelle, Ethiopia.
When we sent those images out, I thought, at what point do people not just get dull to the horrific images, but more to the point, they don't act until the images get even worse than the ones they're used to. So you have a kind of escalation of the kind of images that will move people. But this is why, too, just visuals alone aren't enough. You need that reporter who's there, who can talk almost person to person. This is what I'm seeing. This is how people are reacting. But one wonders, is there a point you get to when people are just dulled endlessly dulled by what they view in news and what they view in entertainment.
I think that terrifies us.
Absolutely.
When we talk about making a difference in journalism, forever there will be one story, one place, one person connected to you. What am I talking about?
Burhan will do, just an amazing personal story.
For everyone here, so many deaths can be numbing. But all are touched by some moments of tragedy. Some faces stand out.
We've seen hundreds and hundreds of refugees from the famine who had been on the road for days and escaping wild hyenas and what have you, and were there, and many of them pneumonia, were sick. And out of the corner of my eye, I saw a young girl of 3 collapse and hit the pavement.
The sisters did all they could, but they had seen so many cases like this before.
No, there isn't anything we can do at this point for the child. The child will die very soon, maybe within 15 minutes.
So we took final shots, and I left her so she could die in dignity. And hours later, our crew had been shaken by this. We went back to see the burial, and we saw this cluster of people in the feeding center, and they all had smiles on their face. You didn't see smiles in Ethiopia at that time. And we went there, and the nurse was holding the child in her arms, and everybody was smiling, weeping.
Sister, we may have had a bit of luck this morning, did we?
Yes,
possible.
She's had an injection, she's had some rehydration fluid, and hopefully she will survive.
That was the beginning of a saga of Burhan will do.
Recently, again touring McKelly, we made one special detour. As for the future, one would like to be hopeful, but life will not be easy for anyone here in coming years.
At some stage, our wonderful editor, Colin Dean, had put together a link of images, which is what we're talking about, images of horror, images of children starving, freezing in this horrible situation, which ended on the face of Burhan will do.
Musicians from around the world are 11 hours into a marathon rock concert going on simultaneously in Britain and the United States. The concert is being televised to millions of others to raise money for starving people in Africa.
And during Live Aid in 1985, they weren't getting much money halfway through. They decided to play this CBC strip of video.
I'd like to introduce a video made by CBC Television. Please send your money in.
At the end was Burhan's face. People were crying in the stadium. People across the world were responding. Staggering amounts of money poured in. She was called back again in 2005 for Live Aid 2, really. She was on stage singing with Madonna, and she and I were brought to the Oprah Winfrey Show. And I kept saying, this is incredible where you are. And he said, yes, but I have to go back and do my exams. And we've just stayed in touch, even through the late war in Ethiopia, where so many were lost. But we've stayed in touch with the whole family, and we were talking on Zoom, actually, just this last weekend. The bottom line was there, what I saw in the face, I remember thinking, if Burhan can survive, it means Ethiopia can survive. So her face became a symbol of how people can come back from these catastrophes. Don't give up on people, because they can survive and have a second life.
I think that one of the interesting and cruel things about being a foreign correspondent is that in this dusty yard, there are probably 3 or 4 Burhans.
Absolutely so. But there comes a time when it's a single person. In throughout history, that has been the case. The girl running from Nepal in Vietnam, the poor child in Syria, dead. You can go back almost all the wars, the war in China against Japan, this child sitting alone amongst the rubble. That single image of the child can move people in a way that the story of 500 people won't. I'm thinking of that now with Gaza, you know. How many of those young children are having their futures really diminished, the possibilities, because of malnutrition, weeks and months and months and months on end. So it's the most horrible thing, famine. It's just, of all the things I've witnessed, including war, it's the cruelest in some ways, because it's a slow death of people in front of their parents, in front of their children, in front of their friends. It's people taking along strangers to walk with them because they want to be buried by somebody when they die, and they know they're not going to make it. You're seeing things that are kind of nightmarish. They're out about the worst case scenario nightmare.
When I hear you talk evocatively, it occurs to me that there's a cost to telling these stories, and I'm curious what all those decades of telling those stories took from you.
And I didn't realize.
When we come back, Brian Stewart opens up about the price he paid for being a first-hand witness to some of humanity's hardest moments.
There's a term for this I learned, something called moral injury, which is called an injury to a wound to the soul, and that's exactly what it is. It's kind of a spiritual hurt.
After witnessing decades of crises firsthand, Brian Stewart, one of Canada's most renowned broadcasters, shares the personal toll.
It started with a series of anxiety attacks, tingling of hands, inability to talk.
A career in journalism spanning the world, bringing accolades and deep remorse. When I hear you talk evocatively, it occurs to me that there's a cost to telling these stories, and I'm curious what all those decades of telling those stories took from you.
And I didn't realize the cost, but years later, what I was struck by was the memories of people that desperately needed to live, needed our help. And I'm a journalist standing by with his safari suit and his
microphone,
full pockets, and they're looking up with a dead child or a dying child, and here's this guy standing there.
Useless, eh?
Useless. You never felt so small. I mean, I never in my life felt smaller than I did during the Ethiopian crisis, when the catastrophe was so much bigger than even my imagination. I found later, when I had a mental breakdown, basically a nervous breakdown, it was related due back to the scenes that I had witnessed where it left me with a guilt feeling, a tremendous guilt feeling. There's a term for this I learned, something called moral injury, which is called an injury to a wound to the soul, and that's exactly what it is. It's kind of a spiritual hurt, a feeling that you were trained to be better. You were supposed to be a better person. You could have saved some lives. You know you could have stopped that van and taken in 2 refugee family members. You could have perhaps found food somewhere and handed it to them. You had a little bit of cash in your pocket. You could have done that. Instead, you're just standing there being a witness. And yes, ultimately, the stories had a huge impact and helped many people. But somehow that doesn't entirely get you off the hook from feeling years later, 20, 30 years later, you know, I wish we'd stopped that van. I do wish.
You're describing it very, very thoughtfully now. But in the moment when you're in a crisis like that, like how did it show up for you?
It started with a series of anxiety attacks, tingling of hands, inability to talk, blurriness, some aura fixation.
Sounds like a stroke.
It sounded very much like a stroke. In fact, the night I had it in full blast, a sister-in-law was a nurse, phoned and told my wife, get him to hospital, he's having a stroke. Overnight, it cleared up miraculously. It all went away. And I left cheerfully thinking how crisp the sheets had been in the hospital. And then it happened a second time, and that's when I came in touch with this marvelous psychiatrist, Anthony Feinstein, who's revered in journalism circles as the man who made journalism face up to the mental wounds that reporters suffer. PTSD is one form, more psychologically as moral injury.
There's no easy way out for El Salvador. Usually the innocent suffer most.
If I think in any degree of depth about things I saw, things I wish I had done, I get quite emotional. I also get tremendously emotional about the great things I saw, like the acts of courage and the acts of wonderful human behavior. I've seen evil that just appalls me and is worse than anything I would have imagined. But I've seen angels. You have too. You know that. You know what I'm talking about.
What a time for you to be a journalist. So You're watching autocratic regimes fall. You're watching Canada rise in terms of its influence in the world. Where would you place this country in the world right now?
Not at the top, I'm sad to say. Canada outperformed everybody for a long period of time. It had the nickname the Samaritan nation. It was doing so much to help the weak, the sick, and the abandoned in the world. I think we lost somewhere. We just went vague. I don't know why we went vague or how we went vague. Also, a lot of the world has sort of given up the effort. You know, there's 8 billion people in the world. There's always going to be an awful lot of need. And some people say, well, why are we still helping people in need? Well, you got 100 million migrants alone seeking shelter. There's going to be a lot of effort. So a lot of people are wearied of the effort.
So you got a close-up look at some extraordinary leaders, Margaret Thatcher, Lech Walesa, Nelson Mandela. I know you formed some views on their leadership. So what is your gut on Donald Trump?
Well, he's unlike anything else I've ever seen in my life among any other leaders. I think we have now a man who is a narcissistic personality out for his own glorification above everything else. And I think that he makes policy on the fly, doesn't read much, if at all. It doesn't listen to briefings much, listens to the last person that briefs him, and has a kind of incoherent flowing.
Makes analysis pretty hard.
It does, absolutely.
Can you look in your Brian Stewart crystal ball for me? Because when you're in the middle as a journalist and you're reporting on what is happening in the here and now, and it is coming at you like a fire hose, it's hard to pull back and look at where things are going. So from your vantage point, what are we all in for? What's coming?
To me, when I look at the world now, there's an ever-increasing speed of a vortex. That's the world you're covering. It's the world where so many treaties are breaking down, so many red lines are being trotted over, so many things are becoming completely unpredictable anymore. So I fear to say that barring some future comeback of common sense in the world, we're in for a world of ever-speeding events that seem chaotic, unfocused, and often crisis-driven. And somehow journalism has to sort that out, and it's going to be one of the hardest jobs in the world. Harder, I think, than diplomacy is, because in diplomacy you would work within certain lines in certain areas. Journalism has to cover it all.
My last question is, you seem good to me. Are you?
I am. I get this enormous pleasure out of small things. I'm back to reading my books and putting my feet up, and nostalgia is a wonderful drug to have. I mentioned my wonderful summers in Spain in 1965, and I spent $3 overnight for one day. It doesn't take a lot to keep me very happy. I've got a great marriage, I've got a great daughter, I've got great friends. I'm back reading about ancient Greek stuff now because I want to get as far away from the swirl of the vortex as possible for a while. So I'm back to Homer.
I don't blame you at all. You've got a hell of a story. Thank you, Brian.
Good luck to you.
Thank you. As always, a big thanks to Brian. Let's change the pace a little bit here because we are counting down the most popular moments of the year, and this next one hits all the marks. When Canada-U.S. relations got tense, a small gesture had a very big impact.
Just want to say, elbows up, folks.
Elbows up.
We're keeping our elbows up, bud.
The rally cry that took hold across Canada in our moment. Next. So The National is bringing you a countdown of the most popular moments from the last year. We call it 12 Days of the Moment, which brings us to this moment, when Elbows Up became a rallying cry earlier this year as the Canada-U.S. trade dispute got a little heated. And it all seemed to start with a small gesture by Mike Myers. Our colleague Ian Hannamansing telling the story of the Elbows Up movement is our moment.
Just want to say, elbows up, folks.
Elbows up.
We're keeping our elbows up, bud.
In response to Donald Trump's threats on our economy and sovereignty, the Elbows Up movement is catching fire online, inspired by a Canadian comedy icon. That's Canada's Mike Myers on Saturday Night Live, making the distinctive gesture and mouthing that rallying cry, elbows up. If it looks familiar, he did it a week earlier. The message is catching on with everyday Canadians and elected politicians.
Elbows up!
It's
elbows up time. We will never kiss the gangster's ring.
The term goes back to Mr. Hockey himself, Gordie Howe.
Gordie was the sweetest guy on the planet, but when Gordie did elbows up, it meant people got black eyes and people lost teeth.
Now, as Donald Trump tries to force Canada into a corner, Canadians seem to be taking an expat celebrity's lead to show they're ready for a fight.
Mike sent the message, and I've been hearing it all day. Elbows up, elbows up, elbows up.
Okay, so here's what we know. Mike Myers said that the next day he got a call from his brother saying, hey, listen, like, this is all blowing up. Forgetting what he had done, he thought it was about his impression of Elon Musk. His brother had to explain, no, you goof, it's about the elbows up. After this, Mike Myers went on this amazing streak of wearing Canadian T-shirts on SNL. From all of us at The National, thank you for being with us. I'm Adrienne Arsenault. Take care.